Okay, so yesterday I just started with this Kerberos, which is nothing but authentication application. Okay, so I started explaining the first part of it. So I'll just do it again. So first, in the Kerberos, you're going to have a client and server. And if the client has to contact the server, it has to go through the Kerberos. So what is a Kerberos? It's nothing but an authentication application. It will have a server, authentication server. So how it works, we will see. The client is going to send the request for the ID of the server. So that is the first one. So the authentication server will refer its database. And how does the client do? By sending the logging in with this ID and password. So the authentication will verify the password and it will send a ticket corresponding to the server. So this V is nothing but server. So this is the ticket of the server. So using this ticket, see the client is sending that ticket to the server. So using this ticket, the server will understand that the client is the original one and it has been approved by the Kerberos. So this information will be got by the server. So now the server will send whatever whatever response it has to give to the particular server. So this is the simple explanation for the Kerberos. Now there is one more type in the Kerberos, that is they are little bit increasing the authentication process here. So here in this diagram, if you see, you have the same client, server and the Kerberos structure. But this Kerberos structure has authentication server and a ticket granting server. So extra in this diagram is the TGS or the ticket granting server. If you go to previous slide, if you see the Kerberos, it has only authentication server and database. Whereas in this, there is an additional one called the ticket granting server. Okay, so that is a difference between this and the previous one. Adding the TGS gives more authentication to the Kerberos. Thereby, it can provide more accurate authentication to the client and server interaction. So we will see how it works. So first the client is going to the client is going to first send one request to the server. So that request is nothing but it is going to ask for the ID of the server, IDV. The V is server. I have already told you that. So it will request, client will request for the ID of the server by using a password. It will use the client password and it will log into this server. Now the server will check the database and verify whether the client has entered the correct username and password. Once he has done that, it will send, are you able to see the second one here? It will send a session key. That key, along with that, it will send something called ticket of TGS. So now what is happening? This authentication server is actually allowing this client to access the TGS. So here, two times you are going to do the verification process, whether the client is original or not. Okay. First is the client is going to request the authentication server for the server ID. That is, the client has to contact the server V. So if it has to contact the server, first it has to show that it is the original one. So what it does, it sends a request to the authentication server saying that I want a ID for to access my server V. Now this authentication server will verify the client and it will give a ticket to the TGS, to the client. So what this client will do, again it will send this ticket to the TGS and the TGS does the second verification of the client. So it will again approve that the client is original and it will send the ticket of the server. So again, with the ticket of the server, the 6th step, the client contacts the server and the server in the 7 steps gives the response. So what is happening here? First time the authentication server checks the client. Second time the ticket granting server also checks, and then only it provides the ticket to access the server. So here you're enhancing the authentication process and it is more secure. So this is the second type of Kerberos. And this is, suppose if a client wants to send to the server which is in another network. Okay, we have a client and server here, one network, and here there is another network, client and server, there is another network. So each network will have its own Kerberos also according to the diagram. So if this client, for example C1, wants to contact this server S2, how it can be done? So let's follow the diagram. So the client is going to send a request to the authentication server again. Same way it is going to check the database and it is going to return a ticket TGS. Now this ticket is again sent to the TGS and that TGS will send. So once again, this authentication server will send a ticket TGS of the remote server. Okay, because the client will request for the remote server only. So the authentication server will give a ticket for the remote TGS. So then the client will contact with that remote TGS to the TGS, and this will again send a ticket of the remote TGS. I missed the word remote here. Just make it as remote ticket here also. Okay, I just missed the word. Now using the remote TGS, now which is the remote? This is the remote TGS. So the client has now received the remote TGS ticket. So using that, it will again send to this TGS asking for the ID of the server. Now this TGS will send the ticket of the server and the client can contact the server. So I'll repeat this process again. In this diagram, the first diagram, just make it remote ticket TGS. Here also remote ticket TGS. Okay. So first the client is going to request for the remote server access. Once it is checking the database, it will return the ticket for this TGS. Okay, here it will be only ticket TGS. So it will be returning the ticket for this TGS. Now this client will access the TGS using this ticket and it will request for the remote servers TGS. So again, this will send, here you have to write remote ticket TGS. So here the TGS will send the remote TGS. With that, the client can contact the TGS and get the server ID and it will process the data. So one small change in the diagram is this: remote TGS has to be entered here. So that is your Kerberos, and these are all, what are these? Nothing but the message that is exchanged. For example, client will send a request to the authentication server. That is the first message. Second is the authentication server will send it to the client back. The client will be sending the ticket TG. So this is a step-by-step process. You can see it and understand. So next we are going to the message digest MD5. So as we already studied in the last class, yesterday's class, that there is authentication algorithm and we are dealing with authentication algorithm. Encryption algorithm is already over. Now we are talking about authentication algorithms. In that, initially we saw about the different authentication functions. Now this is a authentication algorithm, MD5. So message digest, already we studied about how to generate MAC code, how to generate hash code. Yesterday I told you how to generate the MAC code and how to generate the hash code. So MAC code and hash code can be called as message digest. Okay, in other words, how you use an authentication algorithm to generate this MAC code or a hash code. So one of the algorithm is MD5. Okay, so MD5, the output is going to be a message digest. And this message digest is going to be 128-bit. So these are the 5 basic steps. So first you must generate the message digest from the sender side. Then you must append that to the plain text. Then you must send it to the receiver. The receiver will again generate the message digest, and both the generated and the appended one will be compared. So what are these 5 processes? We have seen it already in yesterday's class. For example, if you take up this diagram where MAC is an authenticator, what happens here? Message, MAC function is used, the same process is appended, and then the message with the MAC is sent to the receiver side. The MAC is taken, the received MAC is compared with the generated MAC, generated MAC from the server side, both are compared, right? That is what I am talking here also in MD5, the same concept I am talking. So that is what is this 5 steps repeating again. Now MD5 will tell you how to get this message digest. So MD5 algorithm, the main aim is how to get this message digest. So for that, the first step is you have to take a plain text which is of length 512 bits. Okay, you take a plain text which is of 512 bits. So first what you will do is you will append some padding bits. How long you will append bits to the length is so that the length should be equal to 64 bit less than the multiple of 512. Why we are doing that is, you see the second step, we are going to add 64 bit. For example, you see this plain text, suppose you have 512 bits, just subtract it with 64, you get 448. Okay. Why I'm doing this? Because 448 should be the first, and second, again, you're going to add 64 bits. So 448 plus 64 gives you 512. So your plain text should be of length 512 bits, and it can also be equal to the multiples of 512 also. That is also allowed. For example, if your plain text is 1024, then it should be first you must pad up to 960. Because in the second step you will be adding 64. If you add 64, it will become 1024, which is nothing but the multiple of 512. So the first step is you must pad bits. How long you will pad? You will pad such that the length becomes 64 bits less than the multiple of 512. That is the first step. Second step, you're going to add the 64-bit representation. Okay, after understanding these two, we'll go to the third one. Third one is nothing but your output, that is your, what is your output? Message digest, which is 128 bits. This output should be stored in buffers. The buffer size is 32-bit, and for this algorithm you have 4 buffers A, B, C, D. Then the fourth step is you have to process each block. Each block is 512 bits, so you have to process each block. So there are 4 rounds to process each block. Okay, so this is the diagram. Let's see the working. So first you give an input which is called as the initial values of buffer, or IV, which is nothing but initialization values that can be given to this, to all the 4 buffers. Okay, then it takes 4 rounds. First round, second round, third round, fourth round. So each round has 16 steps. Okay, here I mentioned 16 steps, and it also has 16 constants. Okay, it has 16 steps, 16 constants. I'll explain all that in detail. And it has some portion of plain text, this X of that is called as plain text, some portion of plain text, and it has logical function F. Okay, so let me repeat. First, you have initialization values you give to the 4 buffers A, B, C, D, which is of 32-bit. And you have 4 rounds, 1, 2, 3, 4, that is F. There is a round starting at F, there's a round starting at G, there's a round starting at H, and there is a round starting at I. So there are 4 rounds, and each round has 16 steps. So T of 1 to 16, then here it is T of 17 to 32, likewise. And then X of, there is a value called X of in every round. That is nothing but some portion of the plain text will be taken in each round. That is what is this X representing. And F, G, H, I are nothing but logical functions. And the plain text, which is 512, will also, or 512 bits, will also be given to each round. Now the output of every buffer is XORed. Okay, when you put the symbol, it is XORed with the initialization values. So both are given and you get 4 outputs from the buffers, which together form your first message digest of the first block. So this is one block. Now this output will be given to the second block. So again, second block will have the same process, 4 buffers, then the same thing will be continuing. So likewise, it keeps repeating. This is a chaining process. This output will be given to the next block. Then from this, the output will be given to the next block. So it keeps repeating until we reach the final message digest value. So let us see, I told you 4, we'll see in this diagram, every step, what are the values, we saw the values. So we will discuss each value in detail now. So I told you F, G, H, I are logical functions. They are applied only to the 3 buffers B, C, and D. So this is the equation given for logical function equation given for every F. The first one, F, is nothing but B and C, or negation of B and D. So likewise, you have a formula for G, which uses AND, OR, and NOT. You have a logical function H, which uses XOR. And you have this logical function I, which uses again XOR, OR, and NOT function. So this is the logical function formula. You need to know this. Okay, this is already given in the algorithm. So here, this is the XOR symbol and this is the addition modulo symbol. Okay, there is a difference between these two. Here in these logical function, we are using XOR values only. Now see this equation. There is one big equation number 1 which is given. So this is the equation which is going to be calculated for every step. So this is for step 1. Likewise, it will be calculated. This equation will be calculated for all the 4 steps. So what is this equation? B addition modulo with A addition modulo with the logical function PCD. So the logical function here for the first step will be F. So it will take up this formula. When the logical function for the second step is G, so it will take this formula. And the logical function for the third step will take H, this formula. And the logical function for the fourth step will take I from this formula. So only this will be changing in the equation in every round. So that will be addition modulo with plain text, with a part of plain text for every step, which will be addition modulo with constants. I told you we are also using constants, and that is represented by T of I. And all these have been done a circular shift, left shift. They are doing a circular left shift finally here. So this is the equation. All this will be stored in A. Okay. So this is for the first 16 steps. For the second 16 steps, the logical function will change. The plain text, the next part of the plain text will be taken, and the other part of constants will be taken. So likewise, It will be done for every step. Then the output is going to come in ABCD buffers. Your output is going to come in A, B, C, D buffers. And you get the third step is MD is given to the next block. So you get this MD. This MD is going to be given to the next block. Okay. This is the explanation of the logical function and the step equation in detail. So to precisely talk about this MD5 steps, we can say that there are probably 5 steps. The first is you need to pad the bits. Second, you should make the length so that it is a multiple of 512. Then you must initialize the buffer, MD buffers, all the 4 buffers A, B, C, D. Then the fourth step is you must process the message in 16 word blocks. Okay. Then you must get the output. So this is the diagrammatic explanation. So actually the message, the plain text will be of 512. So this is 512. Then after padding and after adding the length, the total should be n into 32 or L into 512 bits. That is nothing but multiple of 512. Then this is the y naught is nothing but your first initialization vector values that is given to the first block. The output of that is given to the second block. Likewise, it keeps repeating until you get the final 128-bit message digest. So again, the same thing, only they are explaining. We have already seen about it. So this is the explanation, what is that for each and every value. And we also, a truth table is given for the logical functions. Okay, so single step process, what we saw, the equation, that is explained in the form of diagrammatic here. So that is nothing but that B, C and D, the function is given, those values are given to A, right? B, C and D according to here, B, C and D, all these are given to A, right? The logical function applied everywhere is given to A. So that is what they are explaining here in the form of a diagram. All that is given to A, which is addition modulo with the part of the plain text. And then T of I is nothing but constants. All these things are given to the next value. So that is all about MD5. So I think this is more than enough of explanation. Let's go to SHA. SHA. So this is also another authentication algorithm. Here we are going to get hash code as the output. Okay, that is the main thing. So if the output is 128 bits, you call it SHA1. If it is 256 bit, you call it SHA256. If it is 512, you call it SHA512. So for our syllabus, they have covered 512. Okay. So the hash code, I told you here the output is hash code. For MD5, the output was in message digest. In SHA, the output is hash code. It is generated in 512 bits. Okay. So what is the step is? Same like MD5. It is going to have the same process like MD5, but with small alterations. So you have a plain text. The block size of the plain text is 1024 bits. Then the number of steps or the number of rounds here is more, 80. Then each round you have a keyword. That keyword is 64-bit, and generally the keyword is generated from the plain text. Okay, and it is represented as W. So that is what you need to know. Then every round will have a constant K. That K is represented in hexadecimal. And each round will have buffers. In MD5 you had 4 buffers. Here you have 8 buffers. And they will finally give the hash code. So how they are calculating the buffers is each buffer size is 64. So the 512 by 64 gives you 8 buffers. So based on this small calculation, they are telling that there are 8 buffers. And as in the MD5, what we saw, the same thing, the output of the first block is going to be given to the next block. So we'll see again the same steps in a little detail one. That is nothing but first, as you saw in MD5, you're going to pad the bits starting from 1, 0, 0. The padding is going to start from 1, 0, 0 and so on. So that the length of the plain text is 128 bit less than the multiple of 1024 bits. Why? Because in the second step, you're going to add or append 128 bit. So the same explanation for MD5, the same thing you can write here. So here you padded the bits such that it is 64 less, because 64 is going to be added in the second step. In SHA, what you're going to do? You're going to pad the bits until it should be 128 bit less than the 128 bit less it should be, because in the second step you're going to add 128 bit. Okay, that's all about with regard to that. So if you see in this diagram also, you have the plain text message here, then the padding starts here 1000, then you're going to add 128 bits. So in total it should be a multiple of 1024 bits. Okay, so that, then the third step will be you have to initialize the buffers. Here 8 buffers, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G is taken, and each of size is 64 bit in hexadecimal format. Okay, then you have to process each of the plain text in 80 rounds. Then the output will be in the form of hash code. So we will see the each step as we saw in MD5. So here you have A, B, C, D up to H, which is nothing but the buffers of 64 bit is the input. Initial values are given. Then the first round, round 0, round 1 up to round 79. Okay. And this K0, K1 up to K79 is nothing but constants. And the message I told you, this is W is nothing but word. And I already told you that each round has Q word, which is generated from the plain text. So this is nothing but the word that is generated from the plain text. So since there are 79 rounds, we need to generate 79 words. Finally, after everything is done, HI is nothing but our hash code, which will be given as input to the next block. Now, next we have a formula to calculate this word in every round. Okay, this is the formula to calculate. Actually, the plain text is used to calculate the word from W0 to W15. Okay, W0 to W15 will take the exact plain text. So you're not going to generate a new word. So the plain text will directly be going from W0 to W15. You are going to generate word using this formula from W16 to 79. Okay, this is an important factor you must remember. You are going to use this formula only from W16 to W79. So this is the formula given in your book. So in that you have, this is the rounds numbers. Okay, T is nothing but the round numbers. Now let's see the first one. Sigma of 0 to 512 of x. So here you have sigma of 1 to 512 and sigma of 0 to 512. So you must know these two values. So that is the formula here. This is the first formula. What is this? This is nothing but right shift of 1 bit. There is 1 on top, right? It is right shift of 1 bit XORed with the right shift of 8 bits of x. That's XORed with the left shift of 7 bits. SHR is nothing but left shift. This is right shift, this is left shift. Okay, likewise, you have a formula for sigma 1 to 512. This is the formula. And this is the addition modulo symbol. Then in each round, what we do? So this is word calculation from word W16 to 79. Then in each round, what we are doing? Show the diagram. Okay, we'll see this first. In each round, you're going to calculate another formula, because round 0 uses some logical function to do some calculation. Round 1 will have, likewise, each round will have some values to calculate. So we are going to see that now. Okay, this is the formula for calculating in each round. Round 0, round 1 until round 79. I think my time is going to get over. So I'm just stopping with this and just stay online because we'll just take the attendance for today. I'll just explain the SHA. Meanwhile, the attendance is being taken. So SHA is also similar to MD5, but here the output is hash code. Okay, it's not message digest, and there are different bit of output. We are dealing with SHA 512. So the plain text you have 1024 bits, number of rounds is 80. Each round produces a Q word, which is 64 bits. It's generated from the plain text. And every round also has a constant K, which is hexadecimal. Then each round has buffers. We have 8 buffers here. Then the output of the first block is given to the second block. Likewise, it is repeated for every block until you get the 512 bit hash code. So we'll see, this is a diagrammatic representation of that. So every word is calculated from plain text. And there are 8 buffers, and every round is going to be calculated also. So we saw in the next how the word is generated using the formula. And in next class, we will see how to calculate the logical function in every round.